In the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, one God, Amen. We're happy to have Fady and Rose tonight with us, and he will speak to us about Saint Macrina. Okay, um, a great saint. Maybe we don't talk much about her, um, but I think you will find soon why. So, okay, thank you so much, Fady. God bless you. Give you a word.
Okay. Thanks so much. Okay. Yeah, if you have the PDF, I don't know, did you put it on the group? If you have the PDF, it's basically like the life of Macrina. Like there's a book by Saint Gregory called The Life of Macrina, and I didn't write a single word in the PDF other than the title. Everything is from that book. And yeah, so look, Saint Macrina is like my favorite saint. When Rana comes back, try to convince her that we name our child Macrina because but she always says that the child would be made fun of and called Macarena. So yeah, she can talk to other Macarenas. But yeah, so San Macrina to me is great. And I put in the first slide like a tree, okay, of her family. Okay. And you're not gonna find any like family that's like more beautiful than this family in the church. It's like honestly like I think like we'll talk about it today, and I think just the basic thread of all of this is it's not that hard to do small things in your life to have like good Christian conduct, and Sam Macrina goes to influence like every single person in her family. So her grandma is actually Macrina the Elder, and she has Basilius, and Basilius marries Saint Amelia. Basilius and Saint Amelia, they have 10 children. Nine of them make it past infancy. I think one dies in infancy, and then one dies in his 20s. And of the others, you have Saint Macrina, the younger. We call her the younger because Teta is the older. That's like obvious one. And and then we have Saint Basil, so we have both Cappadocian fathers. Like we have Saint Basil and we have Saint Gregory of Nyssa. Not Saint Gregory Thermatega, the wonder worker. I don't know how to say Thermategus. How do you say Thermategus? I don't know. Saint Gregory the wonder worker, not him. Not So there's three Saint Gregories in the commemoration of the saints. This is Nyssa. Okay, this is Saint Gregory of Nyssa. And then Nacratius is the middle child who dies at 27. And then the youngest child, as if there weren't enough saints, you get St. Peter of Sebaste quickly, like just like an add-on, add St. Peter, right? Um, so yeah, you're not gonna find a more beautiful family than this. And I just want to go through her relationship with each like family member and what she does and how she influences them because it's like a very beautiful just way to structure our like Christian relationships. It's like I think it's very admirable, honestly. Um, so the first is Saint Macrina and Amelia. Okay. Uh, and I'm just gonna read because I can't say it better than Saint Gregory, right? I'm just gonna read it. Um, so this is, by the way, this is like Saint Gregory is writing about his older sister. My sister's not gonna write about me. I'm not gonna write about my sister. Uh, that's already like a level of respect, right? That you don't see. And this is what he writes about his relationship of his sister with his mother. Okay? It says, for the mother looked after the girl's soul, and the girl looked after her mother's body. Right? So she's tending to her mother. She's like serving her mother. And all respects fulfilled the required services, even going so far as to prepare meals for her mother with her own hands. The reason he adds the with her own hands, these people are loaded. They're rich, rich. They have servants. They don't do anything for each other. They don't need to do anything for each other. They have, Baweb and grocery guy and lawnmower guy and everything, right? Um, so she tended to her mother, Saint Amelia. Next slide, if you're following with me on the PDF. And not only this, but she helped her mother to bear her burden of responsibilities for the mom, had four sons, five daughters, paid taxes to three different governors since her property was, she's rich, rich. Her property was scattered in as many districts. And in consequence, her mother was distracted with various anxieties, for her father had by this time departed this life. In all these matters, she shared her mother's toil, dividing her cares with her and lightening her heavy load of sorrows. So, like, I teach grade three. When you tell the grade threes, like every Sunday school class, you tell them, "Oh, how can we apply this or whatever?" They go, "Help my mommy clean the dishes. Help my." That's the only thing they take. I swear. I don't even think they help their parents. But you look at Sam Macrina here, and she sees this anxious mother, right? Oh, sorry. She sees this anxious mother, and she wants to share the load, right? And that's the first part of this like loving Christian relationship, right? We have family members, right? And they're anxious and they do so many things. And most of the time, it's you do your thing, I do my thing, right? And we're not really like worried about the other. And that's really the first thing she showed us. And it's very simple things that make her a saint, right? Very simple things. And then continuing, so we said they're rich, right? She says, at one and the same time, thanks to her mother's guardianship, she was keeping her own blamelessness, so that her mother's eye both directed and witnessed all that she did. And also by her own life, she instructed her mother greatly, leading her to the same mark, that of philosophy, I mean, in this time of Christianity, like Christianity is philosophy, okay? And gradually drawing her on to the immaterial and more perfect life. And then the next slide. Now that all distractions of the material life had been removed, Macrina persuaded her mother to give up her ordinary life and all showy style of living and the services of domestics to which she had grown accustomed before, and bring her point of view down to that of the masses, and to share the life of the maids, treating all her slave girls and menials as if they were sisters and belonged to the same rank as herself. So she took, her mother, who was rich, right? And who had lost her husband and who was anxious about taking care of 9 kids and apparently had estates across 3 different countries. I don't even know, or districts, right? She took someone who was anxious about everything and she kind of, through her life, right, created someone who wanted to just care for the slaves, wanted to just focus on immaterial things, right? And yeah, so that's the first relationship, okay? That with her mom. I'm gonna go fast through them and then we can talk about it. The next one, we have Sam Basil, Hotshot Basil, okay? And Basil, I love how it describes. This is Gregory talking about Basil. So you see, he really likes his sister. He doesn't like his brother. This is what he says about Sam Basil. He says he was puffed up beyond measure. So this is Sam Basil comes back from school. Okay, he just got his fancy pants philosophy degree at, I don't know, School of Athens. I'm making all this up. I don't know. And St. Gregory writes, he was puffed up beyond measure with the pride of oratory, pride of speaking, and looked down on the local dignitaries, excelling in his own estimation all the men of leading and position. Nevertheless, now look at Macrina. Macrina took him in his hand, and with such speed did she draw him also towards the mark of philosophy, that he forsook the glories of the world and despised fame gained by speaking, and deserted it for this busy life where one toils with one's hands. His renunciation of property was complete, lest anything should impede the life of virtue. Okay, so with mom, he goes, Mom, she goes, Mom, we need to, treat our slaves well. We need to stop being anxious. With Basil, she goes, Bro, relax. And she just kind of gives him an F and says, don't be so proud. Don't be so full of yourself. This is not, Christian conduct, right? And teaches him humility, right? Teaches him humility. Um, Obviously, she did it gentler than what I would do to my sister, but she she exemplifies that humility for him to actually follow and to become San Basil. And that's the crazy thing. Like, because of her, we have the Cappadocian fathers and we have the writings and we have we have all these like look at how her tiny faithfulness at home turned into massive Christian impact across the world and in our faith. We wouldn't have had like the liturgy of St. Basil. We wouldn't have had like there's so much we would have missed out on, right? If she just, if he didn't have a sister that said, yo, relax, right? So simple. Such a simple like act, right? Okay. Then we have Nacratius. Nacratius dies early. He goes on a I don't really understand. I tried to read everything I found. I don't know if he goes on like a hunting expedition, but it seems like ascetic almost. And he wants to be alone. He wants to be isolated. I don't know. He wants alone time. So he takes some servants for his alone time, and he is, chilling 5 years by like a lake with his servants, isolated, and then he is taken suddenly. Okay, and I just I want you to see how. So Sam Macrina, she deals with the death of her father. She deals with the death of Nacratius, and then she deals with the death of Saint Basil later in her life, right? And all three times she teaches the family, hey, like there's a book called On the Soul and Resurrection that Saint Gregory writes, and it's like a dialogue with her and Saint Macrina about how we shouldn't really be worried about death. And Saint Gregory asks all these questions. He says, like, what about what will we look like in heaven, and will we be married, and will we be? It's like kind of like general like good questions that we all ask, and she just answers and tells him, hey, don't be sorrowful, don't be worried, that like this is what heaven's about, this is what resurrection's about. So
just perspective.
yeah.
Saint Gregory Nyssa is the one who wrote the liturgy, Saint Gregory, and he's a bishop, and he talks to his sister Saint Macrina, and he's inquiring about all these questions.
So Saint Gregory writes this, the life of Macrina, and he writes on the soul and resurrection. He writes both, and on the soul and resurrection is the dialogue, the discussion between him and Macrina, Saint Macrina, and he talks about like what Abuna's saying. He talks about Saint Macrina. He says the teacher. This is his sister. The teacher. Yeah, like
So
what Abuna's saying.
And just absorb that, and he's like mourning, and then she's consoling him and teaching and edifying. So just amazing.
Yeah. No, really, like, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So Nacratius.
Same thing. It's not the... So that's why I asked and I reflect on this.
You call her teacher.
Yeah, yeah. And I go and I sometimes stressed or something, and I ask her things. Yeah,
I've never called Mary teacher, unfortunately. I'm laughing
because she actually taught. My sister taught me in Sunday school.
almost.
Yeah.
Wow. You're like at home and
I have a story.
Yeah, at home and the okay, so to Nacratius, okay? So this is her dealing with the death in the family. It says, then there fell on the mother, Amelia, a grievous and tragic affliction, contrived, I think, by the adversary. This is Saint Gregory talking about the affliction in the family. It says, which brought trouble and mourning upon all the family, for he was snatched suddenly away from life. No previous sickness had prepared them for the blow, nor did any of the usual and well-known mischances bring death upon the young man. And now the virtue of the great Macrina was displayed. Facing the disaster in a rational spirit, she both preserved herself from collapse, and becoming the prop of her mother's weakness, raised her up from the abyss of grief, and by her own steadfastness, and, I love this word, imperturbability, like not perturbed, stoic, uh, not, the early Christians, they thought they were stoic. They thought that was the philosophy they followed. They don't get so excited when something good happens in their life. They don't get so sad when something bad happens in their life, because either way is God's will. So how do we go high or low? There's no high or low. So it says, and her imperturbability taught her mother's soul to be brave, right? So that's, how Saint Macrina is dealing with death and how she deals with affliction, right? And how she exemplifies that to her family to lead them through sorrow and through death. Okay? And then, I don't really know why I skipped St. Gregory, but as Abuna was saying, when St. Gregory, so when St. Basil dies, St. Gregory goes to visit Macrina in her. It's kind of like a convent, but it was more like a family dwelling. Like there were females and males, but they were in separate sections. And he goes to visit her, right? He's coming from synod with the bishops. He's already a bishop at this time. When he goes and writes on the soul and the resurrection and calls her teacher, he's already a bishop, right? And he's leaving a synod and he's going to visit his sister because of his brother's death, and he wants consolation. Right? But I skipped it, so we're gonna move on. Then Saint Peter of Sebaste, the last, okay, the last one. When Saint Peter was born, his father Basilius had died at the same time, right? Very near the time that he was born. So he grew up without a father. And we see now how Saint Macrina takes care of her youngest. She says, at one and the same time, he received the names of son and orphan. For as he entered this life, his father passed away from it. But the eldest of the family, the subject of our story, took him soon after birth from the nurse's breast and reared him himself and educated him on a lofty system of training, practicing him from infancies in holy study, so as not to give his soul leisure to turn to vain things. Thus, having become all things to the lad, father, teacher, tutor, mother, giver of all good advice, she produced such results that before the age of boyhood had passed, when he was yet a stripling in the first bloom of tender youth, he aspired to the high mark of philosophy. Okay, so summary, right? For mom, she showed mom to not care so much about the material wealth. For Basil, she taught him humility. For Gregory, right, she taught him imperturbability. I don't even think I'm saying the word right, but stoicism, being stable, not getting too high, too low, dealing with death, right? For St. Peter, she basically didn't give him a chance to mess up because, I don't know, there's a verse in Proverbs, I think, I'm not even going to try because I'm going to butcher it. But it's like if you teach a kid uh, in his youth to follow the ways, then he'll follow. I don't know. I don't know the verse. Do you know the verse I'm talking about? Whatever. And then, so for each member of the family, right? She has this strong scope of influence, and that scope of influence extends right to all of Christianity and today, right? That we talk about. So I put two verses at the end here. I think they're basically a summary of like what we do with this. The first from Hebrews says, "Let us consider how to provoke one another to love and good deeds, not neglecting to meet together, as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching." Yani, I remember in Life 101, like they have the catechesis, and they say the church is like a charcoal barbecue. You put the charcoal, when the charcoal is by itself sitting, it always cools down. When the charcoal is around other hot charcoals, it's hot, right? So you can't live as a charcoal outside the charcoal barbecue. You gotta live as a charcoal inside the charcoal barbecue. That's the church, right? And that's this. Let us consider how to provoke one another to do things, right? Like after COVID, we kind of all got lazy, huh? Let's admit it. We're all a little bit lazier than we were before COVID, right? We all spend less time. Well, I'll speak for myself. I spend less time with the Bible. I spend less time praying after COVID. And this is something I need to do. I need to provoke the people in my household. The people in my household need to provoke me. And we need to be charcoal barbecues, right? The second verse, he who is faithful in what is least is faithful also in much. And he who is unjust in what is least is also unjust in much. Sam Macrina, right? She's a great saint. But like looking at what she actually did, she just did good common sense Christian household things, right? Of course they were strong, and I'm not taking away from that, but it's not very far for us to do, right? We don't have to sam'ana kharas our way to heaven. We don't have to pray in front of a mountain, right? We don't have to do any of that. We just have to, you know, spread Christianity to mama and three boys, and we're good, right? Like she makes it look simple, but she lives this life of like be faithful in the relationships and in the things that are directly in your life instead of looking and being like, oh, I'm not a good Christian because I don't have, X opportunity that that person has, right? Yeah, that's it for me. Anybody have thoughts that they want to share? I skipped a lot of the life of Macrina, to be honest, but I just wanted to keep it to the point. So if you want to share more, go for it.
That doesn't want to term and service along the road since we're supposed to do that. It says when God asks you on Judgment Day, have you produced any fruits? He's gonna start first with your family and the people around you. It's like, have you produced any fruits with people around you, with your friends, your family, your coworkers? And if the answer is no, of course we know what happens to the branch, that branch.
Mm.
So you're like what you're saying, what's in McMurray, that's exactly what we're supposed to be, what we ought to be doing in practice. Because people, you don't have to go outside to serve. You just start serving it by bringing your family close to God or church.
Mm.
Fady, what else can you tell us about Sarah McBride? Did she get married? Did she serve outside of her household?
Are you leading the get married story or?
LA?
So she didn't get married. She almost got married. Okay, the story is kind of funny. So so her father kind of had an arrangement for each of the, five daughters, and the person that she was engaged to died during the engagement, and she didn't want to be married in the first place. So she went to her father and she said, "Hey, I kind of feel like a strong devotion to this man who died, so I don't want to get married again out of strong devotion to him." And she, swiped herself from the whole ordeal. Yeah, nice way of doing it.
She got martyred in the end.
No, so she died from an illness in her convent, and St. Gregory was sort of with her. And on the way, St. Gregory had like a vision that she was about to leave, and that's sort of when they spent. So all this dialogue on the resurrection, she's on her deathbed, like she is fighting illness and talking about how she like longs to reach that day of resurrection.
She became a nun, or just lived a nun?
So the 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 monastic order, like I don't want to, but Saint Peter of Sebaste lived with like the men, and Saint Macrina and Saint Amelia lived with the women, and it was like a Christian, I don't know, it's church to me.
Community.
Christian community. Yeah.
So they lived apart, but like together.
Yeah, it was like a yeah. So Saint Peter was kind of in charge of the men, and Saint Macrina was in charge.
There wasn't like a convent with each other. They're like the same.
So
I'll read the story.
it's like, so Saint Basil writes also like many additional works on monasticism, right? And like Christian living and all of that. And it's sort of, do you want to get into it, Luna? I don't want to get into it.
No, St. Basil writes like some rules on monasticism and some church rules and canons. And he has a very famous work on the Holy Spirit and things like that. So, because of his education and background in rhetoric and things like and philosophy and things like that. So,
yeah. So I'm gonna butcher it, but the types of monasticism, right? Like you have the asceticism that St. Paul and St. Anthony, we know that one, right? But cenobitism, did I say that correctly? Cenobitism, like familial, like it's more communal living, right? That's like there was like a separate style of monasticism that was communal living. So this is not asceticism of St. Anthony. This is like communal family dedication. Yeah.
it's based on the monastic life in Egypt and Syria, because this is Cappadocia. Cappadocia is in Turkey, uh, uh, like southeast part of Turkey. Okay. Maybe one day we'll make it there. They have underground churches and things like, and this is where he was a bishop, right? I get that right.
Yeah, yeah.
So he took some of those rules from Egypt and Syria because also he went there to learn about monasticism and to live a little bit there.
Sorry, you know what St. Basil?
St. Basil. So when he went back, he put rules also for monastic life. So and he's contemporary to Saint John Chrysostom, right? And Pope of Alexandria as well. I don't know if it's Saint Timothy, I believe. Saint Timothy or like Pope Timothy and Pope Cyril, something. Yeah, Pope Cyril, I think for sure. And then so he writes just rules like to establish monastic life in there as well. Just like when you go actually Catholic Church, rules or rules of Benedict for monasticism for Catholics, it's all taken from Saint Bohemius in Egypt, right? Yeah, so it's the same idea, but much, much earlier.
This is San Macrina the Younger. All of this was. Teta was an elder.
Yeah. This tradition still exists, like among the in Greece, actually, like usually like the first daughter is named after the grandmother of the father, I think, and the second daughter is named after the grandmother of the wife, and then after that you can name whatever you want. But this tradition still exists, naming the daughter after the grandmother.
I pulled up the words I wanted to say. The Hermetic is St. Paul, right? Then the Cenobitic, which is the communal, it's full communal. That was St. Bohemius, right? Full communal, which is not what they do today in the monasteries. They don't do full communal. They do the semi-Hermetic, which is the we're gonna meet on Sundays, right? Like they isolate during the week, they pray, they have their canons, and then they meet on Sundays. That's the semi-Hermetic, right? That's more of what they do today. But the
Like, depends on what, depends on which order of which order they're following.
yeah, yeah.
St. Anthony, they're more together than apart, but also I think it depends on the stage of where they are.
Yeah, but there you always find some monks and some that have partially, yeah. So yeah, this is very Cenobitic practice because even the males and the females would pray together because it's still their families. Yeah, it's kind of interesting and weird. That's why I
Wait, when you say semi-communal, you mean males and females praying together, or you mean just males praying together?
no. So I'm saying Saint Macrina and Saint Peter would pray together.
But those are siblings.
Yeah, they're siblings and they're like surrounded by their servants and stuff.
Yeah.
That's why I don't want to call this a convent.
It's different.
Yeah, it's different.
You have a family of at least like 10, 15 children.
Yeah, you know.
And then along with that, you have like the servants. And then you have sometimes like the neighbors or relatives, the extended family. So it's fine, Yani. And this is not far away. I can tell you, like my family from my mom's side, they're like my grandfather, like they're three, and their houses were beside each other, and each one like has like 9 and 10 children. So and like 3 houses beside each other. So and they actually wake up in the morning, and all of them they stand up and pray together.
Yeah.
Right. So they always talk about these memories. So it's not something that is yani far. It's just like nowadays you see it differently because we started to be more of uh, what an individualistic community rather than like more of a community, um, which has its يعني, negative, uh, because there's like you don't feel accountability as much, and it's just like it's easy to stray away. It's easy to like fall into so many other things. It's just about me and myself and like whatever I want. But in a communal setting, usually like everyone is accountable pretty much to everyone, right?
Macrina in the squad. Do you see my picture in the front? That's the 4 boys. I killed it, right? That's Basil cutting Gregory's hair. I don't know.